Okay, so I hope you understood the graphics pipeline by now, and if not, just go back to the previous tutorial because the graphics pipeline is quite important for this tutorial. So, as you can see here, this was the same program we used for the previous tutorial of creating a first OpenShell window. However, you will notice two new things here. You will notice two strings, namely the vertex shader source and the fragment shader source. Basically, these are the source code of the vertex shader and the fragment shader written in the OpenGL shading language or GLSL. So, before delving into OpenGL coding, let me tell you one thing that, and always remember this thing, OpenGL is dumb. Oh yes. So this will help you understand a lot of concepts. So always remember this thing. Now, also one thing that you know that the vertex shader and fragment shader forms a part of the graphics pipeline. However, the vertex shader and fragment shader are also compulsory. So to use the core profile mode, you have to always include the vertex shader and fragment shader. Not with the case as the geometrical shader and the tessellation shader, they are optional. Okay, so let's delve a little bit into this GLSL. So we'll get a rough idea of what is this shaders doing. And don't worry if you don't understand the GLSL now, because in the next tutorial itself, I'll delve into GLSL in depth. Okay, so let's understand a vertex shader first. So the first line of any shader is what is the version of GLSL we are using. So we already know that we are using the OpenGL 3.3 version. So the corresponding GLSL version will be 330. For example, if I am using the 4.2 version of OpenGL, the GLSL version will be 420. Okay. Also, we'll mention that we are using the core profile mode of OpenGL and not the immediate mode. Okay. Now, see, these shaders are steps in the graphics pipeline. So something goes inside the shader and some output comes out of the shader. We also know that the vertex shader is a first step in the graphics pipeline. So we have to supply it the vertices we want to render. Okay. Also remember one point that the input variables of vertex shader are called vertex attributes. Remember this word? Okay. So we'll come later onto this term of layout location equal to 1. So just ignore them currently. Now we'll use this keyword in here to specify that this a position variable is getting inside the vertex shader. Now see, inside the GLSL there are various new data types that we will encounter. One of the data type is vector3. So it creates a vector of 3 coordinates, namely the x, y and z. Now each coordinate can be accessed by dot operator, that is a position dot x, a position dot y and a position dot z. Okay. Now inside the main function we'll use this variable. This is a predefined variable in GLSL called the GL position. Okay, this is a vector4 type variable and it stores the output values of the vertices. So now we have to cast a vector3 type to the vector4 type. We do this in GLSL via this syntax. We write the vector4, the data type, inside the brackets, the corresponding x, y, z coordinates. So we write a position dot x, a position dot y, and a position dot z. Now about the fourth coordinate, this is called the w coordinate. Okay, we'll talk about this in the later tutorials. So just remember this is w coordinate. Also write fourth chord as w coordinate. So it can be accessed as a position dot w. Okay. So in the vertex shader, we took in the a position vector3 variable and took out the vector4 GL position variable. Okay. Now about the fragment shader, let's see how it works. Again, The first line of any shader is a version similar to the vertex shader. Now, to create a simple fragment shader, we don't want to take anything inside the fragment shader, but just want to give the output of the colored pixels. Now, fragment shader unfortunately do not have a predefined variable like GL position, so we'll use a fragment color variable to give the output of fragment shader. We use this keyword out to denote that value is going to be outputted from the shader. This fragment color is of the vector 4 type, okay, and inside the main function we specify it to the value as the red component 1.0f, blue component 0.05, green component 0.2f, and the alpha value as the 1.0f. Is it okay? So I hope you have gotten a bit of idea of what goes inside the shader source or the shaders we use. So let's start coding our OpenShell pipeline and the steps that were before them. Okay. So the configuration of this OpenShell graphics pipeline and the steps that goes before that occurs outside the render loop, and we just call this graphics pipeline inside the render loop to draw anything. So hence we'll do the configuration outside the render loop. Now, as you might remember, the first step before the graphics pipeline was creating the vertex data. So we'll create a floating array of vertex data and assign it values. Now, as you can see, these are in the normalized device coordinates. So it's your choice. You can also write them in the pixel format, or you can write them in the normalized device coordinates. The indices are preferred over the pixel format. Okay. Also, you might have noticed that we are going to render a 2D triangle, and we haven't delved into the 3D aspect of OpenGL that is basically governed by this buffer called the depth buffer. So currently the Z coordinate of these vertices don't really matter. So you can set its value to anything as you want. I have set this value to 1.0f, but that's just trivial. Now, as you might remember, the second step was sending this vertex data into the GPU and storing inside a buffer. So, to control this buffer, we'll use a buffer object. Yes, this is the first instance of OpenShell objects in coding. So, I hope you remember the concept of OpenShell objects. Now, we'll learn how to code OpenShell objects in our OpenShell code. So, inside the GPU, there contains various types of buffer. The buffer we are interested in is called the vertex buffer or the vertex array buffer, where the vertex data is stored. So, to write a buffer object, the first step is creating a buffer ID. So let's name it the vertex buffer object VBO. Now, the second step is creating a buffer memory. So we do this via the function glGenerateBuffers. That is, the first argument is what is the size of the array of the vertex buffer. So it is a single variable, so the size will be 1. And the second one is what is the buffer ID itself. So the third step is binding this newly created buffer to the type of buffer we want. So we want it to be associated with the vertex buffer. So we'll use the function shell bind buffer. Now the type is GL array buffer, that is also called a vertex buffer, and what VBO. Now we have binded it to a required type of buffer. Now we'll send our vertex data to this buffer. So we'll use the function GL buffer data. Now it takes a bunch of arguments. The first one is the target, that is a GL array buffer. The second one is what is the size of vertex data. So we'll cheekily use this function that is present in C++ called sizeOf, vertex data. The third argument is the data itself, vertex data. And the fourth one will use the GL static draw. However, we can use here something called as dynamic draw or stream draw. So basically, if a vertex data is not changing in the whole program, we'll use GL static draw here. If our vertex data is changing in the program, we'll use the dynamic draw here. And if a vertex data is used for a very few times, so we'll use the GL stream draw. But usually GL static draw works, so you don't have to worry about that much. So this is how a OpenGL object is written in OpenGL. So let's summarize what we did. The first step we did was to create an object ID, that is in this case a VBO. The second step was initializing this ID to the associated OpenGL object, that was in this case a buffer. The third step was binding this object ID to the type of OpenGL object we wanted to use. And the other subsequent steps will be setting options for that OpenGL object. For example, here it was to send the data inside the buffer. So this is a general syntax of writing OpenGL objects. Now, we created our vertex data, we sent it to the GPU. However, there is just one thing remaining before creating a graphics pipeline. So the thing is, OpenGL doesn't know how to interpret this vertex data. For example, it doesn't know that the first three values of the vertex data corresponds to the first vertex. So we have to tell OpenGL about this. A simple reason, because OpenGL is dumb. Okay? So let's get back to this layout location I left before. So we know that the input variable of vertex data are called the vertex attributes. So to send this data inside the vertex shader and configure how to interpret the vertex data, we use a sort of pointer here. This layout displays a pointer. So we have created a vertex attribute pointer to this vertex attribute a position. Okay. So to access this vertex attribute pointer inside our program, our main function, we'll use this function called GL vertex attribute pointer. Now it takes a bunch of arguments. We'll see one by one what are they. So the first one is what is the index of this vertex attribute pointer. So we set this index using this location equal to 1. So the current index of the a position vertex attribute is 1. The second argument is what is the size of the data type of the vertex attribute. So we know we're using the vector 3 data type. So we'll just write here 3. Okay. The third argument is what is the type of vertex data we're sending in. GL float. The fourth argument is whether we want to normalize our vertex data. So if you write your vertex data in pixels, you have to write here GL2. However, we have written them in NDC only. So we'll write GL false. The fifth argument is called the stride value. So to understand the stride value, see, basically the stride means the what is the distance between two similar entities inside the vertex data. What I mean by that is, see, the 0.5f here denotes the x coordinate of the first vertex. This minus 0.5f denotes the x coordinate of the second vertex. Also, this minus 0.5f denotes the x coordinate of the third vertex. So these three elements are similar to each other. So the distance between the similar entities inside the vertex data is called the stride. So current stride value will be 3 into size of float. So The sixth argument, the final argument, is called the offset value. So the offset value denotes from where our vertex data starts. So currently the vertex data starts from the 0th element. So we can just write 0. However, you can see it has a data type of constant void pointer. So we actually have to cast it to this weird type, just legacy stuff. Okay. Now, since we know OpenGL is dumb, so we also have to enable this vertex attribute pointer. We'll use gl enable vertex attribute pointer and the index, that is 1 here. Now see, we know that the vertex attribute pointer we are talking about is about this vertex data that is contained inside the VBO. However, OpenGL is dumb, so OpenGL doesn't know this stuff. So we actually have to link our vertex buffer object and this vertex attribute pointer stuff we just created. So we'll use another object called a vertex array object. So similar to the vertex buffer object, the first step is creating the vertex array object ID. Now inside this vertex array object, various buffers are there and the attribute pointers are contained inside this vertex array object. Is it okay? So the next step of any object is initializing that. So we'll write gl generate vertex arrays. Inside this, the size of the VAO, that is 1, and the VAO itself. Now the next step is binding our vertex array object. So we'll write the function gl bind vertex arrays or vertex array VAO. After binding the vertex array, any calls on any buffer are stored inside this VAO and any calls on the vertex attribute pointer are also stored inside this VAO. Okay? Now after this vertex attribute pointer, it is a good practice to unbind the vertex array. So we do the unbinding job by binding this vertex array to 0. 0. Also, let's unbind our newly created GL array buffer. So we'll write GL bind buffer, the subtype as GL array buffer with 0. So it is helpful if you are using more than one vertex array objects, which we will use in the upcoming tutorials. Okay. Now the steps before the graphics pipeline are done. Now is the time to create a graphics pipeline. So first of all, let's create an object for the vertex shader. So similar to other objects, we'll assign it an ID. Let's call it VS and FS. Now to initialize this object, it is slightly different from the VAO and VBO. We use this function VS equal to GL create shaders, and it is a vertex shader. So as you might see here that we have done the initialization and binding process simultaneously in the first step itself. So the second step is sending this vertex shader source string to this vertex shader object. So we'll use the function gl shader source. Now it also takes a bunch of arguments. The first argument is a shader object itself. The second one is how many strings we want to pass for this vertex shader object. We just have the one string, so we'll write 1. Now the third is the string itself, so that is vertex shader source, and the last one you can leave its value to none. Okay. Now after we have supplied this vertex shader object with the source of vertex shader, let's compile a GLSL program. So we'll use the function gl compile shader and shader vs. Okay, now let's do similar stuff with the fragment shader. So fs is gl create shader, gl fragment shader. As you might see, most of the functions in OpenGL are self-explanatory. So you just have to remember what stuff to do, and you can just use simple English language to write the functions. Fs. Okay. Now we have created individual objects of vertex shader and fragment shader. Now let's create an OpenGL object for the whole graphics pipeline. So this is called a program in OpenGL. So again, we'll define a object ID to it. Let's call it the shader program. Now let's initialize this using function shader program is equal to gl create program. Now let's attach a vertex shader and fragment shader objects to this shader program. So we'll write gl attach shader, the program, the shader program, and the vertex shader. Let's also attach our fragment shader to this shader program. Comma. Now, after we have attached all the shaders to it, we also have to tell OpenGL to link all the shaders so that a systematic graphics pipeline is created. So we'll use the function gl link program, the program itself, and tada! Finally, all of the configurations is completed. So we first defined the vertex data, then we defined the first two steps we showed in the slideshow, that was stored inside the vertex array object, that included sending vertex data to the buffer and setting the vertex attribute pointers. The next step, we created a vertex shader and fragment shader objects. Finally, we created a graphics pipeline. So after creating this graphics pipeline, we can actually delete this vertex shader and fragment shader objects we just created. We'll use the function delete shader. Just it is good practice. So vs and gl delete shaders fs. Okay. Now let's render our first OpenGL triangle. Now inside the render loop, first of all, we'll bind our vertex array object. So gl bind vertex array VAO. After that, we'll bind our graphics pipeline, that is gl use program and shader program. After that, we'll use a function gl draw arrays to tell OpenGL to actually render stuff onto the window. So it takes a bunch of arguments. The first one is what is a primitive you want to set it for. So we know that we want to create a triangle. We'll use gl triangles. The second argument is from where the vertex data starts, though that is 0. And the third one is how many vertices you want to draw, that is 3. So tada, let's try running our big program. Tada! If you also got an orange triangle onto this window, then you have done everything good till now. Okay. So see, this might be heavy for some of you to understand and to learn this process, but let me tell you, you have learned 25% of OpenGL after that, after learning this process. Okay, so if you like the video, press the like button and subscribe for more such tutorials. Thank you.